talk a little bit about this topic of mindfulness, particularly because it is catching storm in the business world. And so sometimes when we talk about mindfulness, we think about something in different circles. Like if you practice yoga, you might be thinking about mindfulness. But you might not think about mindfulness when you're talking about going to work. So we're going to get into this a little bit and talk briefly about the research and talk about some benefits. By the way, even though we're talking about this for business, this is also something that helps you as students as well. So this is really about your whole self. And then we're going to talk a little bit about how that relates to different businesses. And then my understanding is that you guys are aware of the contest that you guys are going to be engaging in later for the new product development. So are we clear on what we want to do today? Just want to make sure you guys are all on the same page. Okay. So I thought it might be helpful for us to first engage in a little bit of meditation and get us in that space of mindfulness. So we're going to do a brief meditation, and so I'll ask you to close your eyes and focus on your breathing, and then I'll play a little music. You don't have to worry about the time or anything, and just encourage you to kind of shut your eyes and get comfortable. So you can stay where you're seated right now. You could go sit on the floor if you want. As long as you don't leave the room, you can go anywhere you want and get comfortable. You can put your feet up, you can kick your shoes off, whatever you want to do. Or you can stay exactly like you are. Okay, so let me start by asking, how long was that?
4 minutes.
4 minutes. Other thoughts? Y'all think it's 4 minutes? Huh? 1 minute. So it was 3 minutes. So for some people, it'll feel longer or shorter, especially if you're in a space where you sit down for 20 minutes. Sometimes it can feel like you're lost in space, or sometimes it can feel like you've sat down for 5 minutes, depending on what your mindset is and how amped up, stressed, etc. that you were before going into the session. So what was the experience like for you? Good and bad? Relaxing? Okay. What did you say?
Mind-focused.
Mind-focused? Okay. What else?
Release some stress.
Relieve some stress? Okay. Did anyone get distracted by your thoughts? Yeah, I see a lot of head shaking, right? So what was that like? Yeah, definitely. And I saw a lot of people nodding their heads with that. And that's very common. And actually, you know, one of the myths is that when you sit down, that suddenly everything just disappears from your mind. Really, it's the process of spending some time focusing on some source other than that to allow you to get to a point that your body, mind, spirit can all relax and align. So it's not so much about not having thoughts, but it's about having those thoughts just acknowledge that they pass through. And then the longer that you do that, then they have a chance to come in less frequency or less magnitude. And so over time, if you were practicing something similar to mindfulness or meditation, then you might find that it's a little bit easier to sit down for 5 minutes and go through some type of mindfulness session for yourself. So, why and how did I get into this? So this totally was me, and still I do have those tendencies. So I am the type A overachiever, doing 500 things at once and running in many different directions. I'm sure that also sounds like your life in some parts, right? Especially as students, and you might have families and jobs and a lot of other things. But I was feeling very stressed out in my job. And I had tried some things, and someone had suggested maybe that I consider meditation, and my response was, that's for type B yoga people. So I was like, I don't know if that's going to work for me. But everything I had tried didn't work, so I said, let me give it a shot. So I went out to California. Has anyone heard of Deepak Chopra? I went out to the Chopra Center and had a chance to go through a weekend. And in doing so, there was a guy from Brooklyn, out of all people, who was doing this presentation. And he just didn't seem like the type of person that would be doing this. And of course, I had a lot of stereotypes in my head about this process before starting. And then I just had a chance to really learn more about it, understand what was true and what wasn't. And ultimately, I walked away and found it to be relaxing. That's ultimately, it was like, wow, I am more relaxed and I'm less stressed, so maybe there's something to this. So, and that's when I started to get a little bit more into this practice. And most recently, about 1.5 years ago, I started to try to introduce a little bit of this at Imber Hills and the Minsky system. And it's been well received, and so it's a great honor to be able to come and talk to students about this, because you guys live in very complex times these days. Trying to balance being a student and all the other responsibilities that you have as an individual. And also you're here to better your lives for yourselves and for your families, and either establish or change careers. And so this will be very useful in thinking about in the context of business, because it is a fast-paced world that we all live in now. This is something that has started to take off in the business world. Why? Because of all the reasons that I just shared with you. They look at this from a business proposition. Maybe some of them, there's a few really progressive companies that say, hey, this is cutting edge, we want to have our employees have access to this. But there's a whole lot of companies that are doing it because they feel like it helps the bottom line. So why do you think that they would invest in mindfulness based on what we've talked about so far? What do you think that could look like from a business perspective in terms of helping the bottom line?
They've seen results from previous people that have used it.
Okay.
Their performance probably is higher, or their attention to detail or whatever is probably more productive.
Okay. Good. So you've got some folks that might be considered high achievers, top salespeople and so forth that are really standing out. And if they notice that they perform even better by having access to some of the tools to engage in meditation, like a meditation room at the organization, then that's a good investment, right? Because the return on investment is going to be significant for them, right? What else? Why else would a business want to invest in providing mindfulness and meditation to their employees? Yeah.
Increase productivity?
Increase productivity, absolutely. So we just talked about increasing productivity for students, right? Academic performance. But for individuals, if they're less stressed, if they're able to focus more, if they're able to get more done, there's a lot of debate about whether or not it's more effective to multitask or single task in terms of getting work done. This is, another example. If they can give them something that will allow them to spend that 60 minutes more effectively than they would without it, that's a great investment of their time and resources. So here are a couple of examples of leaders that have embraced this practice and have recognized the benefits to investing in their organizations to be able to make this available for their employees. The other thing, too, is many of them have health and wellness programs, and that's usually an area that they'll put this topic under in terms of making some things available. And it can be in a couple of ways. I mean, it might be bringing in some guest lectures to educate people on this, and it might also be then giving them space and time. So maybe they're saying, in addition to a lunch hour, we're going to give you an extra 15 minutes so that you can meditate before you come back to your desk. So that could be another example of an investment a company can make. How are we doing this?
We're fine. Okay.
All right. Okay, so here are some of the best companies to work for. I'm sure that these are some of the companies that you guys are actually talking about in your class. So what are some commonalities between all these companies? Yes?
They're high stress.
High stress. Okay. And why are they high stress?
Well, a couple of them are innovative. Some of them are, you're dealing with money and financial situations, which can impact so many different people, and it's just all over stress.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
like I know for sure Google, I talked about in one of my classes, they allow people to, if you absolutely need to, you can go and take a nap while you're working, because if you're so stressed or need a break from what you're doing. And they also allow people to free lunch is brought in. They have all your amenities on their campus. So like if you need your car worked on while you're at work, they have that you can get it washed. Everything you would need is on their campus to help your everyday life just go overall more smooth.
Yeah. And so why are they spending millions on
Because-
those amenities?
Because they know if they can keep their employees happy, their productivity and everything else will go up.
Yep. And if they can keep them there, right, then they don't have to worry about the stress of commuting. They don't have to worry about time it takes away from doing their job. Yep, absolutely. Really, really good answer. Yes?
3M's doing that too.
Yes.
I know they have massage therapists there on hand, but they're apparently booked out way too far. They have a pharmacy there. I think they have like a mini doctor's office too.
They have a U.S. bank too.
Yeah, they have a bank.
Yeah.
They have a cafeteria, and part of it is just like Subway and stuff. Some of those bigger chains.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And it's nice that we have a couple of the leaders here, 3M, Medtronics, and so absolutely. But I think one of the key points is you look at the list of organizations, and they are the ones that are on the cutting edge in many instances. They're either very mature companies that are established and have the ability to innovate and operationalize on a long-term basis, or they're cutting edge and they're bleeding edge because of the innovations that they're developing and well above their competition. So those are a couple of the reasons why they make this list, but you can see that they get here in part because of what they do to invest in employees, and this is one example of the way that a lot of these companies are investing.